Hello, my name is Byron Klaus, and I'm going to be your instructor for this course, EDMA 7393 Higher Ed Finance. Rather than using a Zoom call to introduce the course and introduce myself, I thought I'd just make this video and you can watch it previous to us getting going on the course. So, as I said, my name is Byron Klaus. I have been involved in higher education since 1980. Previous to that, I was a local church pastor. And in 1988, I became a faculty member at Southern California College in Costa Mesa, California, which is now Vanguard University of Southern California. About 20 years later, after working there in administration and faculty, I went on to become president of the Assemblies of God Theological Seminary in Springfield, Missouri. And I was there for 16 years, retiring in 2015, and immediately became interim president at the University of Valley Forge near Philadelphia. Since that time, I've been in a variety of roles, international ministries, and also involved in governance work, working with presidents and deans of schools in my role as vice chair of the Intrust Center for Theological Schools. So that's a little bit about my background, and obviously I'm here now in the Pacific Northwest in 2018. My wife and I moved to Oregon City, Oregon to be closer to all our kids and grandkids who now live within 10 minutes of us. And both Dr. Castleberry and Dr. Krebs were colleagues. They worked with me, for me, at AGTS, excuse me. And so I was on the radar screen and have been really privileged to be part of the work that the Center for Leadership Development is doing with Dr. Krebs. This is my fourth course in the higher ed cohort. And this particular course, Higher Ed Finance, is, of course, I'm teaching for the second time. First time was in hybrid mode. And now, of course, this is a little bit more online. Well, it is online, okay? So, what I want to do is give you just a basic idea of why I frame the course the way it is. Anytime you talk about higher ed finance, it's a pretty broad field. And the truth is that you've got to say, we're going to focus on this aspect of things. So, we're not going to focus on the more accounting side, the CPA side of things. We're going to look at one really important part of higher ed finance, and that is, where does the money come from? We're going to look at revenue streams. So revenue streams are diverse, but they really end up primarily in three buckets: tuition revenue, gifts that are usually around annual funds, fundraising events, capital campaigns, etc. And the third is investments and endowments. Those three major buckets are places that we look at revenue. So this course is about, do we understand these? Do we have a basic understanding of each of these areas? And do we understand how we can sustain each of those revenue streams? So that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to take deep dives into that. So Unit 1 is the first 3 weeks. It is a deep dive. There's a lot of reading. There's a number of textbooks, at least 3 textbooks you've got to read during that time that will give you sort of quick overviews of university, how a university runs, will give you an awareness of fundraising, will give you an awareness of just some of the challenges that are present right now in this post-COVID, I guess we'll call it post-COVID season. So Unit 1 is that deep dive. We're going to take 3 weeks to do that. We'll have Zoom every week. But what I'm really trying to do is get you familiar with language, get you familiar with these 3 buckets, look at the varying pieces that can go into those 3 buckets, and really help you gain an awareness of the terrain of revenue streams. The second 3 weeks, we will continue that deep dive, but for a specific purpose, and that is for you to hone in on an area that you'd like to spend more time in and ultimately do your final research on. Will that area be in, around tuition revenue? and the whole science and art of enrollment management? Will that be in fundraising? Are you concerned about annual funds, capital campaigns, a variety of fundraising strategies? Or are you interested, for instance, in grant writing or in legacy gifts, endowments, etc.? So we'll take those 3 weeks for you to find a place that you say, I really want to hone in on this area. And then the third unit will be week 7 and 8. And here, my colleague Michael Richmond, who is a research assistant with me in this course this time around, will be helping me in this area. Michael's gone through this course before. He's finishing up a PhD there at Northwest. And he's also a dean at a local community college there in the Seattle area, and really is going to help us focus on the hard decisions that budget unit managers have to make. And you'll be reading some more on university finance, getting some of the lingo down, what's net revenue, all those sorts of things, just so you have a working language that you can at least toss around and impress people with. Unit 4, you'll continue on looking at case studies on revenue enhancement. I really want you to be involved in understanding, in a sense, how people are doing revenue enhancement. One of the ways that that's available for you to know is there's scores of things on the internet, on websites, that basically do this kind of work. And they have their case studies, their testimonials of how they've advanced revenue with a particular strategy, and they're there for you to observe, to learn. Obviously, they're trying to sell you their product, but in the meantime, you can gain just a really great awareness of what's going on in the enhancement of various revenue streams. And then the final unit, number 5, is essentially you presenting your work. You're going to present your research. We're going to have sort of a research roundtable, and everybody's going to share their wealth and wisdom in the particular things that they have focused on. I will spend a lot of time. You can obviously contact me. A lot of this is going to have to be personal interaction with me and how you find a sweet spot in what you'd really like to hone in on. And this leads me to talk a little bit about the types of assignments that I usually do. Because I've spent since 1980 in higher ed. I really believe that if you want to go into this field, that you not only have to know where the peer-reviewed journals are to look at the latest research, etc., you have to be able to communicate to various decision-making bodies why it is, in this case, we're talking about finance, why it is you think a particular budget item, a particular budget you're offering, why you feel this budget represents a way in which you can complete the mission of your institution. Budgets are all about not about only about numbers. They're about you making a statement to say that with this money, I will enhance the mission of this university that I'm a part of. So, if you're going to be a professional, number one, you're going to have to be concerned about budget and fiscal matters. You're going to have to know not only where the money came from, but you're going to have to manage how that money is used to fulfill the mission of the institution that you are a part of. And because of that, if you're going to be a higher ed professional, you're going to have to learn to make presentations verbally. There are going to be times where you're going to be called into an executive body of the board, in a fiscal committee of the board, or you're going to be called into the president's cabinet, or you're going to be called into the president's office, and you are going to have to present in a short period of time. You're going to have to present your case. So every one of the assignments that you will have are really about you being able to make a presentation of content that you've summarized into a easily transmittable form. So in many cases, you're going to be asked to produce a PowerPoint that you would use in a situation where you're making a presentation. You're trying to make an appeal, you're trying to help people make decisions, and you are the presenter. So, and you look at the assignments, they're pretty much going to be that way. You know, PowerPoints with voiceover. PowerPoints are not just about you producing fancy slides. It's about you, being able to reduce lots of content into easily transmittable form. You do not have 3 hours. You may have 15 minutes to make your case. And in these kinds of situations, I simply want to be able to help you to have a hypothetical practice at that sort of thing. So that's the way I do assignments. There are places for juried, review journals. There's all that sort of thing, and those will come, and you'll see in the last assignment you're going to have to use that sort of thing to substantiate the kinds of presentations that you're going to make. You have to learn how to make PowerPoints, executive summaries, and be placed in situations where you're actually going to try to influence people in the decisions that they make about particular fiscal matters in the university that you are a part of. So one of the things that you'll see in a lot of the resources that I give you, there's a lot of links, there's a lot of, in fact, there's actually some ebooks that I'm asking you to read. Part of the thing, again, it's sort of a trick of the trade after being at this 40 years, particularly as the internet has become a rich source of resources and reference. It certainly wasn't always that way. You need to have an email that is not a personal email, but it's an email that you use to have different companies, different resources send you information. You go on the internet and you'll see, download this free ebook, download this free white paper, etc. And all of those are opportunities, obviously, for that company to get your email, but it's also opportunity for you to have a deep catalog of important information that you can use immediately. So getting links to all kinds of products, getting links to case studies, getting links to ebooks, getting links to white papers, all these things are a way for you to stay on top of decision makers helping you make decisions. And I really believe that this is a really important way to do things. I've done this my entire career. It used to be, thick files of things I Xeroxed and copied. You don't need to do that anymore, but you do need to have an email where this stuff can come in. So a lot of the resources you're going to see have just been gleaned over the last few years in this kind of research. And I probably have 10 to 12 different groups that I get information from on a regular basis, all the way from inside higher ed to university business to safety on campus. All of these have products and articles and e-magazines that they're trying to get you on their radar screen. Well, you want them on your radar screen so that you can have access to this kind of information that you may need at the drop of a hat. So you'll see a lot of the resources that I provide, not only for required reading, but also for just additional things that I want you to look at, are key to this kind of immediate access resource. I'm going to be probably adding on a weekly basis to different units these kinds of pieces. But this is an important part of your growth as a higher ed professional. It is important for you to keep up on the issues that are critical to making decisions right now, fiscal decisions. We're coming out of a COVID season right now, and a lot of people, say the COVID season has caused great fiscal challenge to most universities. Absolutely true. But what's even more true is that the COVID situation that we're facing has, in fact, been the revealer of fiscal unawareness and fiscal ill-preparedness that universities have had, that have put them in an even worse situation because of the obvious immediate crunch caused by COVID. You want to be on top of that kind of stuff. For instance, in your first unit, you're reading a book by Nathan Grau. It's a book just came out the last 2 months off the Johns Hopkins Press, which is a wonderful resource for higher ed information. He's writing from a private college perspective on the kinds of challenges that we have to face and the necessity of nimbleness in university settings today, particularly around fiscal matters. These are tough decisions you have to make based on data, but you can't sit around with 2-year study committees anymore. This is done. Those days are done. You have to be able to turn on a dime. This comes down to, the tough decision of, what programs are not producing tuition revenue at our university. They're going to have to be phased out. That means decisions that have implications for faculty and families. But, what is the market saying about what students are wanting today? Are we actually aware of that so that we can create majors that they will want to come and study with us about? That is the kind of book that you'll see Nathan Grau read. And I also have because of these resources that I'm constantly gleaning, I have an article in there that'll talk about Nathan Grau. Has a personal interview with Nathan Grau. So, the period that we're in right now really requires us to think differently. We have to think nimbly, and I'm hoping that the strategy of getting you into hypothetical situations where you're going to have to make presentations and communicate will really enhance that. I just want you to know that I'm available to you. Obviously, my email at Northwest U is byron.klaus. Let's start again. byron.klaus at northwestu.edu, or Byron Klaus, same spelling, no dots, all lowercase, at gmail.com. And I'd really appreciate any time that you're getting a hold of me that you would use both emails. That would be really helpful, because the Gmail comes in on my phone and I can respond much more quickly to an inquiry you might have. Another thing that you'll see on each of the units is obviously deadlines. We have certain parameters for this particular semester, and those have to be kept. But you're also, you're a professional. You have, most of you, I'm sure, have day jobs. You're doing this PhD as part of your 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you have work to do. You've got family. And that means that sometimes deadlines cannot be met. So if that occurs, I'm fully aware of that. It happens to me all the time. But we're also professionals, and that means that you don't come to me and say, hey, I can't do this assignment. I need more time. Come to me and say, I'm not going to be able to make this deadline because of, and I can get this assignment to you by, and give me the date. So that this is about sort of self-discipline. We have to get this done. We can't make it amorphous. It has to be concrete, and I am putting the onus on you to just make those decisions. Tell me how, in the middle of your balancing act, you can get this work done. Okay. So you'll find me very amenable to that sort of thing, but we have to have some sort of guidelines and some deadlines to make this thing go. So I look forward to meeting you all. I'll be sending out an email to everybody to make sure that we can start getting the Zoom meetings scheduled, so those are done ahead of time. And I'm just really looking forward to being with you, and looking forward to our discussions and our time of interaction to sort of help you become a more efficient and skillful professional, particularly around the issue of finance. See you soon.